DU First Inaugural Lecture, Professor Jude Mbukanma advocates for moral science in educational system. The Professor of Ethics and Philosophy of Religious Studies, Faculty of Theology, Dominican University, Samonda, Ibadan, Reverend Father Professor Jude O Mbukanma advocated for moral science as subject in the educational system. The renowned professor said this while delivering his inaugural lecture on Wednesday, March 16 at the Varsity campus, Samonda, Ibadan. The inaugural lecture, titled The Abandonment of Moral Science in the Pursuit of Natural Science Education, The Great Mistake in the Theory of Modernization. Let us give moral science a priority consideration in our educational system, as we cannot expect good behavior if morals aren't in place, and note that virtue is teachable and its reward is happiness, he advocated.
Teach the citizens morals while believing in the teachability of the virtues, we will have no need of policing the city. Moral behavior is not the only concern of moral science. With development in natural science and technology, there now arises serious questions in bioethics. Questions such as the interrelationship between medical, biological research and technological advances
does not result in the production of morally good people in a political society, and does not have miracle of the conversion of human hearts. When people lack moral education,
learn to follow instruction on how to live the virtuous life. This is an important point in moral education. It is in the process of making choices, trying to refrain from socially disapproved actions because one is afraid of the consequences that moral crisis sometimes brings out. In other words, we sometimes weigh wrongly, and the consequences are often grave, for they do not serve our purpose or anyone else's good. According to Catholic philosophy of education, a true education involves the simultaneous development of man's psychological and moral consciousness. That is an integral formation of the whole person, not only the cultivation of the scientific faculty. I cannot forget how I became a Dominican friar. It was through the efforts of Father Ambrose Wimbecker, OP, during the Nigerian-Biafran War. I was in my town of non-minded family because I had written to join the Dominican Order before the war started. Father Wimbecker took the risk, drove all the way from Lagos to Bono to fetch me so that I could start my initiate in August 1969. I asked God to reward him with eternal life. Amen. Last but not the least, I thank the Dominican Order in Nigeria, and most importantly, the Dominican brothers in the Priory of St. Thomas Aquinas, Ibadan, for their love and friendship, which made it possible for me to study philosophy. Because if they were not friendly with me, I could have left brother by now.
Father, we glorify your holy name for this successful rendition of this inaugural lecture. We thank you that you have brought us here. As we are going back, give us peace. Amen. Give us knowledge. Amen. Help us to educate our children and our words. Amen. The what is lacking in education in Nigeria be provided for us. Amen. May you transform our nation into a country where nothing is lacking. Through Christ our Lord.
Speaking on his inaugural, he said
that the duties has been done. If I never did this, I would have been very sad. Who knows when it will be over my stay on earth. So for God to give me the opportunity to be able to give out and to enunciate or kind of do my credo, what I believe in intellectual life, it's something that I have to be eternally grateful to him for giving me.
On the dwindling academic standard in Nigeria, Professor Jude O Mbukanma said that people are not patriotic.
Precisely, people are not patriotic. They don't love the country. If they love the country, they would not do some of the things that is giving rise to this unrest by the university academics. Now, patriotism is no longer a virtue. People don't like it. I think they do this for the failure of the country is precisely because people don't obey the dictates of moral law within their hearts.
Also, if Nigerian government can respect the gifts God has given to individuals, as there is no respect for individual talent and gifts, he mentioned.
If Nigeria can respect the gifts God has given to us in individuals, in other words, there is no more, I don't know whether tribalism we may call it, there is no respect for individual talents, individual gifts. If appointments and whatever people are doing are based on merit, on those who have the power to do it, and not just anyhow choice, I think that there'll be a change.
Professor Anthony Alaba Akinwale, in an interview with CEO Africa, expressed his joy to have his own teacher give an inaugural lecture in the school where he is the current vice-chancellor.
You know one thing about education, and he pointed that out clearly. It's not just about book knowledge, it's not just about science and technology. As a matter of fact, the lecture he gave fits very well into the philosophy of education of the Dominican University. It stands on a tripod: intellectual formation, technical formation, and ethical formation. If you form people who are technically savvy but are not ethically competent, then you are going to produce many Yahoo boys and girls.
It is imperative to be reminded that the lecture of today challenges us to ensure that we do not separate politics from morality, and if separated, problem will arise in the country, he stated. Stakeholders who spoke to CEO Africa expressed their joy at the achievement of the first inaugural lecture in the institution and showered accolades on the inaugural lecturer, Professor Jude O Mbukanma, adding that moral science can be put in place in the educational system as subjects that will be added to the syllabus from primary school to secondary and tertiary levels. The Dean of Science, Dominican University, Professor Domingo Okori, stated that moral science begins from early childhood as far back as primary school.
The moral science has to start with the moral education right from the beginning, from the primary school. It goes on. The fact that we call it moral science, you are just trying to scientific the thing like the moral values, right? The moral values which you now use and apply this technological age.
The acting librarian, Mrs. Blessing Mba, strongly supports that there is a need to inculcate moral awareness from the beginning with children in school.
The best way is to inculcate discipline, to ensure discipline is meted out to students who are indisciplined. That way, the society, I think, will be a better place. From the university.
And is well corroborated by Professor Francis Ofo. Professor Kenneth from Library and Archival Science, University of Ibadan, expresses displeasure with how morality is beginning to fade away.
Moral science educational system is something that must be done because we are putting so much in the system. Yet the system is disorganized. So it's a matter of curriculum planners supported by government policy to go back to the drawing board and ensure that moral science is taught right from the grassroots up to the university level.
Friends and well-wishers were seen bubbling with joy and pride, such as Sister Mary Sylvan, Mrs. Esther Ogwaye, and others all expressed how excited they were.
So fantastic. I'm so glad at least being a part of it. And also our father guardian, who is the first person to give the lecture. So for me it was a big credit, and we're very happy about that.
Professor Jude O Mbukanma is the first and current professor of philosophy in Dominican University, Samonda, Ibadan. He is not only involved in academic life, but is also a devoted member of the Catholic Charismatic Renewal. The dignitaries in attendance were the Most Reverend Dr. Ayo Maria Ayoyebi, OP, Emeritus Catholic Bishop of Ilorin, Reverend Father Emmanuel Ajewole, representative of Most Reverend Gabriel Abegunri, Catholic Archbishop of Ibadan, Ambassador Martin Uhomoibi, former President of the United Nations Human Rights Council from 19th June 2008 to 18th June 2009, Ambassador Ayo Ulukoni, the Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, Barrister Mutiu Agboke, Oyo State Resident Electoral Commissioner, INEC, Professor Francisca Ayawo, Kinetic and Health Education, Professor Yeniyi Oladepo Patrick, Kinetic and Health Education, Professor John I. Aneto, Chemical Pathology, University of Ibadan, Reverend Father Professor Anselm Jimo, SS Peter and Paul Major Seminary, Ibadan, Pa Modupe Oduyoye, octogenarian polyglot, Professor Inyito Shenge, University of Ibadan, Professor Adenike Ogunse, University of Ibadan, Professor P.C. Onyawa, University of Ibadan, Professor Kenneth Walo, University of Ibadan, Reverend Father Daniel Iletogbe, Catholic Diocese of Ilorin, Professor Thomas Wole Brimo, University of Ilorin, Professor Mrs. Adenike Emeke, OP, Provincial President, Lay Dominican Fraternity, Reverend Father Nathaniel Eshikena, OP, Conventual Prior, Dominican Community, Ibadan, Representative of Oyo State Commissioner of Police, Prioress, Dominican Monastery, Ilorin, Professor Isaac Ukpokolo, Professor Francis Ofo, Professor Anthony Akinwale, the Vice-Chancellor of the institution, the Registrar, Reverend Kenneth Nkadi, OP, the Librarian, Mrs. Chigozie Blessing Mba, the Dean of Science, Professor Domingo Okori, the HOD of Accounting, Dr. Adelekon Saidi Adedeji, Dominican University lecturers, students, friends, family and well-wishers enlivened the event.